I grew up in a family that never sat still. Can you see I'm the one, see who I am? I'm the one carrying my shoe. I grew up cooking for my family, and I saw the power of what food could do to bring people together. In the 90s, I went to Silicon Valley and I started building a company with my brother. It was an amazing experience, but we slept on the office, we slept on the office floor, we showered at the YMCA, and we ate fast food 3 times a day. It was a lonely, isolating experience. And yet half of Americans eat alone every day. After Silicon Valley, I went to New York City, and I learned how to cook. I went to culinary school, and I found my passion for food. On September 11th, I woke up to the sound of the planes hitting the building. I looked out my window, and I saw the towers fall. I had the opportunity to cook for the firefighters, and I cooked for them for 6 weeks. And it was a profound experience for me, watching the firefighters come in from these giant piles of melting metal. They'd come in, we'd convert a gymnasium into a cafeteria, we'd nourish them with food we cooked that day. They would eat the food, they would connect with each other, and then they would go back out into these giant piles of melting metal, still melting after 6 weeks. I saw that food brought them together just like the food I'd cooked for my family as a kid. I saw the power of community through food. And so I moved to Colorado. I opened the kitchen, a community restaurant, with the idea to name it after the kitchen where we all gathered in our house. With my co-founder, Hugo, we worked to design a menu, but we were very unhappy with the industrial food supply chain. We didn't know where it came from, it wasn't fresh, and as chefs, it just didn't taste good. And the reason is that industrial food isn't designed to taste good. It's designed to be shipped for thousands of miles. It's designed to be frozen. It's high-calorie, low-nutrient food. And mostly, it just doesn't taste very good. And so we looked for something different. This is Anne. Anne has Cure Farm in Colorado. She raises her animals in a nourishing and delicious way. She grows her vegetables. She looks after her land. She looks after her community. This is Roger. Roger raises his cattle and for the kitchen from birth. And he trusts us to buy his whole cow so that he has a stable business for his family. And the community did come together because they trust us to nourish them with delicious food. Our farmers taught me and taught us that real food is about trust. Real food is food that you trust to nourish your body. It's food that you trust to nourish the farmer. And it's food that you trust to nourish the planet. But the reality is, most Americans do not have access to real food. And the results have been devastating. The result of industrial food is rampant obesity and diabetes, especially amongst our poor. Over 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. Over 70%. While the kitchen was doing well, I was growing frustrated. It was a drop in the ocean of what needed to happen. And then something awful and wonderful happened to me. I went down a ski hill going 35 miles an hour and I had an accident. I fell on my head, I broke my neck. I was paralyzed on my left, and the doctors were not sure if I'd be able to walk again. I looked back on my life, and I felt like I wish I could have done more. And I told myself that if I woke up, if they could fix me, I would do more. The next morning after surgery, the doctors told me I'd be able to walk again. And I dedicated my life to real food for everyone. My joke If not for the physical trauma, I highly recommend the psychological awakening. And so we dug in and we said, how can we scale real food? We looked at the kitchen's menu and we simplified it. We made it more accessible. We made it more affordable. We created a restaurant called Next Door. Next Door Eateries, along with our other restaurants, work with over 100 farmers today. We serve over 1 million people a year. We're growing in America's heartland, and by 2020, we want to be serving 5 million people a year. But we cannot do it alone. We need more real food farmers. We need the next generation to demand real food. This is Margaret. Margaret is a typical American farmer in the industrial food system. She lives in Iowa, and she's in her 80s. 60% of American farmers in Iowa are over the age of 77. People like her kids, people like her grandkids, don't want to farm on Margaret's farm. They don't want her farm. No one wants to farm corn for ethanol. And so I went looking for farmers. I went looking for the young farmers in America. And I found them. I found them in the cities. Young farmers are in our cities, but they don't have land to farm. So we built something called Square Roots, which is an indoor urban farm platform that gives young farmers a farm in Brooklyn. We built 10 of these farms, literally in old, used shipping containers. Each indoor farm is the equivalent of 2 acres of outdoor farming. In our first campus of 10 farms, we got 500 applications to be a young farmer. The future of American farming is bright. Then we looked into our cities to educate our kids about real food so that they could be empowered to make better real food decisions throughout their life. Traditional school gardens are built about 2 a year. We changed the idea of a school garden with the invention of the learning garden. It's modular, it's like Lego blocks, it's fun, it's easy to teach in, it's easy to build, it's easy to maintain. Principals love them. And now we build over 100 per year. And since we've started, we've built 450 learning gardens across the US, 150 in Chicago alone. So what I've learned from the firefighters, from the chefs, from the farmers, from the kids, is that real food is about community. Real food is about trust. Real food is for everyone, because everyone deserves real food.